You know, I'm not ashamed to admit that I've played a lot of dumb games, and some time ago this game called Forspoken came out, and it seemed like the entire world just kind of stopped for a second and said, huh? Now, I've been asked by some people to check this out. Even when it was released, they still wanted me somehow to make a video about it. Like I said, I've seen a lot of games like this, and I thought, you know, how bad could it be? But then I spotted the Square Enix logo and thought, this could be good. But let me tell you, Forspoken didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. The opening chapters felt like a traffic jam, and the pacing was slower than a snail on a vacation. And that PS5 demo, yikes. It was like trying to impress someone with a magic trick that flopped. I almost threw in the towel during my casual playthrough, but I'm glad I stuck around. Once the game finally decided to wake up and smell the coffee, I was hooked. It's a short action RPG, so if you hang in there, it's like a roller coaster that takes a while to climb, but gives you a wild ride once it drops. Just remember, the road might be bumpy, but the destination is worth it. Step into the shoes of Frey Holland, where Forspoken kicks off with a gloomy intro that screams childhood trauma alert. Before you can say abracadabra, she finds herself in the wacky world of Athia, with no GPS to guide her home, but hey, at least she's got a sassy bracelet named Cuff to keep her company. The game takes its sweet time to unfold, but once it does, the game really gets face off against the four Tantas. Think of them as the original mean girls of magic, who went from charming sorceresses to full-on villain mode. Now, it's up to us to track them down and remind them that madness isn't a good look. After a stealth mission that's about as complicated as a game of hide and seek, Frey is finally let loose on Sipao, the medieval city that basically the last lifeboat for humanity. It's a cozy little spot, safe from the nasty corruption known as the Break. Think of it as the world's worst party crasher that ruins everything it touches, except for our girl Frey. With wildlife and corrupted humans itching to turn her into a snack, every corner of this place is like a level in a video game. And Frey is not even packing a conventional weapon. Who needs swords when you've got style? Frey is like a wizard on caffeine high, flinging spells from a distance while tying up enemies with some seriously clingy weeds. When you take down a Tanta, it's like winning the magical lottery. New abilities pop up faster that you can say abracadabra, and you can swap them out mid-fight like changing socks. Upgrading spells is like giving a magic gym membership, and let's not forget the thrill of slicing through some corrupted baddies with Tantasilla's melee move. Talk about a slice satisfaction. The combat feels like a sequel to Luminous's previous adventure, Final Fantasy XV, but instead of a road trip with your pals, it's more of a solo magic show. Frey zips around Athia's vast playground, pulling off stylish combos that make you feel like a magical ninja, and the excitement just keeps building as you unlock new tricks. The controls are like a friend who promises to help you move but ends up just eating pizza on a couch. I kept hitting the left trigger, hoping it would magically aim my shots, but nope. Instead, I was blasting support spells like confetti at a party. You lock onto an enemy with R3, which I finally got the hang of after a few embarrassing moments. And let's not even talk about the menus popping up mid-battle like they're trying to sell me a timeshare. Sure, there's an automatic spell switch option, but it still feels like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle. The dialogue is bound to stir the pot, but it's not the train wreck that some folks think it is. Frey's a newbie in this wild world, zapping monsters with spells left and right. Who wouldn't be a mix of thrilled and terrified? What might seem like a little exaggerated freakout is actually pretty understandable, even if it does flirt with that Wooden-esque banter. However, snappy one-liners during combat can wear thin faster than a cheap pair of socks. Trying to sprinkle in humor like it's a Marvel flick, Comedy is a tricky beast, and I'm just not on board with this one. Luckily, there's a magical setting that lets you turn down his voice lines, and once I did that, it was smooth sailing from there. Even with all those hiccups, there were a few chuckle-worthy exchanges between the duo that made me smile. And Cuff isn't the worst sidekick to have while wandering through Athia. From the dense jungles of Junon to the vast fields of Visoria, this world has a charmingly dilapidated vibe and a ton of activities to keep you busy. Frey can cozy up in various hideouts to whip up items, snap photos of stunning views, and even make pals with the Tanta's magical cats. The labyrinths serve up a mini dungeon experience with a mini boss, while events like flashbacks and elimination throw some spicy twists into the combat, like racing against the clock to take out all the baddies. Plus, with accessibility features like custom button mapping, adjustable text sizes, and setting for color vision deficiency, the experience gets a nice little boost. Exploring feels like a wild ride thanks to Frey's magic parkour, which lets you zip through the landscape and dodge attacks like a pro. While getting around Ethia is a blast, there's a bigger issue lurking. With all these events scattered around the open world, it often feels like they're just there to fill up space on the map. Sure, the labyrinths might hide some intriguing lore, but honestly, I found myself tuning out and sticking to the main quests. Even then, I couldn't quite shake off my first impressions. Frey is like that quirky friend who shows up to the party but spends half the time talking about their cats. Sure, she can be a bit self-absorbed and sometimes forgets that the world doesn't revolve around her, but I never found myself hating her. She's a bit of a lone wolf, and honestly, who can blame her? With a childhood that sounds like a bad reality show, it's no wonder that she feels like a discarded sock. When the universe decides to throw her a curveball and ask her to save the world she's never even heard of, you can bet the pressure is on. In a nutshell, Frey is a beautifully messy character. She's got flaws galore, and even her dialogue sometimes makes you want to roll your eyes. She's relatable in a very human way. Watching her grow and finally let people in, like watching a cat learn to trust again. Heartwarming and a little awkward. But let's be real, the writing isn't always a home run. Giving her a backstory filled with thefts and gang shenanigans feels like a lazy plot twist. Still, despite the hiccups, she manages to shine as one of the most authentic protagonists I've come across lately, especially with that tear-jerking finale. Well, it seemed this sale is taking its sweet time to reach the grand finale, and I only started to care when the campaign was almost waving goodbye. The silver lining? The main story is a quickie, about 12 hours, if you decide to skip the side quests and post-game shenanigans. That's a far cry from the 30-40 hours we were promised, but hey, at least it doesn't drag on like a soap opera. Sure, it's your classic save the world gig, but Forspoken also dives into Frey's personal saga, which hits the home in a way that makes you go, ah. The world building is pretty nifty too. Adia's backstory is like a history book you can actually want to read. You'll stumble upon diary entries that spill the tea from the fates of the locals, a long-gone war, and more. Just be careful not to miss them, like they're hidden snacks in a movie theater. Now, if you're looking for a deep dive into Black culture, you might want to swing by Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales instead. Forspoken, however, takes a different route, shining a spotlight on classicism. This is especially clear in an early side quest where Frey gets a tour of Sipao from an enthusiastic young blacksmith. Though things go south when they hit the posh upper city, and it's like walking into a party where you're not on the guest list. What's someone like that doing here? One resident whispers, while others grumble about how the upper city is feasting on gourmet meals while they're stuck in leftovers. The class divide is laid out like a buffet, and it's hard to ignore the tensions shimmering beneath the surface. So, here's the gist of it. There's some real gems in this game. I went into Forspoken with a skeptical eyebrows raised, but I walked out with a grin that could rival the Joker's. Sure, Ray's backstory had me scratching my head, and the dialogue was like a game of dodgeball. Some hits, some misses, but Luminous has whipped up a hero who's not more engaging than a cat video on the internet. The story takes its sweet time to kick off, and while the writing sometimes feels like it's stripped over its own shoelaces, there's still a lot of fun to be had. It's quite a bit of a roller coaster ride, making it tricky to give a blanket recommendation, but hey, with its character development that's juicier than a ripe watermelon, a world that's more detailed than your grandma's quilt, and combat that's flashier than a disco ball, there's definitely some eye candy worth checking out. Make sure to subscribe and let me know what game I should do next, or just say hello, that's fine too. And above all else, everybody have a great day and see you all next time. Bye bye.